Oh, hey everyone. I'm Joshua Orro, the Mustang Prince. Welcome to Mustang Prince Orro Reports. You know, next to Dr. Seuss, there is one other children's author who has been praised a lot by a lot of people. And that man is former RAF pilot Roald Dahl. His books have been real classics over the years, like the BFG, Matilda, Fantastic Mr. Fox, James and the Giant Peach, and today's subject, which happens to be his most famous story, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Ever since its release in 1964, it's been a critically acclaimed hit. The story was originally inspired by Roald Dahl's experience of chocolate companies during his school days. Cadbury would often send test packages to the school children in exchange for their opinions on the new products. At that time, around the 1920s, Cadbury and Rowntree's were England's two largest chocolate makers, and they each often tried to steal trade secrets by sending spies posing as employees into the other factories. Because of this, both companies became highly protective of their chocolate-making processes. It was a combination of this secrecy and the elaboration, often gigantic machines in factories that inspired Dahl to write the story. A decade later, Mel Stewart made a movie based off the book, which he called Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. And even though Roald Dahl did help with the script, he didn't like how it turned out. Let me explain. You see, Roald Dahl disowned the film, the script of which was partially rewritten by David Setzer after Dahl failed to meet deadlines. Dahl said he was disappointed because he thought it placed too much emphasis on Willy Wonka and not enough on Charlie, as well as the non-casting of Milligan. He was also infuriated by the deviations in the plot that Setzer devised in the draft of the screenplay, including the conversion of Slugworth into a spy and the fizzy lifting drinks. And I'm going to have to agree with Dahl. Other than those two scenes, some of the songs disappointed me as well. Like some of the Oompa-Loompas songs didn't quite match the theme from the books, and a few of the others weren't that really much memorable, including the scary tunnel scene and the golden geese. My rating for that film would have to be at 59%. But then, starting in the 90s, Warner Brothers wanted to make Dahl feel better by making a better movie that stayed true to the book. And who did they hire to direct it? Why, none other than my favorite director, Tim Burton. Released on July 15th, 2005, the movie is, well, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. So, let's start with the plot of this movie, even though if everyone already knows about it, if they've already read the book. Okay. Charlie Bucket comes from a poor family and spends most of his time dreaming about the chocolate that he loves and usually can't afford. Things change when Willy Wonka, head of the very popular Wonka chocolate empire, announces a contest in which 5 golden tickets have been hidden in chocolate bars and sent throughout the country, or perhaps the world as well. The kids who find the tickets will be taken on a tour of Wonka's chocolate factory and get a special glimpse of the wonders within. Charlie miraculously finds a ticket, along with 4 other children much naughtier than him. The tour of the factory will hold more than a few surprises for this bunch. So, my thoughts on this movie? great one. A very sweet one as well. But I'll tell you more in my Mustang notes. Now, since Roald Dahl disapproved of the 1971 film adaptation, he declined the film rights to produce the sequel Charlie and the Great Glass Elevator. Warner Brothers and Burlstein Great Entertainment entered discussions with the Dahl estate in 1991, hoping to purchase the rights to produce another film version of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. The purchase was finalized in 1998 with Dahl's widow, Felicity, and their daughter, Lucy, receiving total artistic control and final privilege on the choices of actors, directors, and writers. The Dahl estate's subsequent protection of the source material was the main reason that Charlie and the Chocolate Factory languished in development hell since the 1990s. After reaching enthusiastic approval from the Dahl estate, Warner Brothers hired Tim Burton to direct in May 2003. Burton compared the project's languishing development to Batman in 1989, which he directed. In how there have been very creative efforts with both films, he said, Scott Frank's version was the best, probably the clearest, and the most interesting, but they had abandoned that. Lizzie Dahl commented that Burton was the first and only director the estate was happy with. He had previously produced another of the author's adaptations with James and the Giant Peach in 1996, and like Dahl and Lizzie, disliked the 1971 film because it stayed from the book's storylines. During pre-production, Burton visited Dahl's former home in the Buckinghamshire village of the great Missenden. Lucy Dahl remembered Burton entering Dahl's famed writing shed and saying, "This is the Bucket's house," and thinking to herself, "Thank God somebody gets it." Lizzie also showed Burton the original handwritten manuscript, which Burton discovered were more political and incorrect than the published book. The manuscript included a child named Herpes after a sexual transmitted disease. Lily's script received a rewrite of Pamela Petler, who worked with Burton on Corpse Bride, but the director hired Big Fish screenwriter John August in December 2003 to start from scratch. Both John August and Tim Burton were fans of the book during their childhood, which is pretty nice. August first read Charlie and the Chocolate Factory when he was 8 years old, and subsequently sent Dahl a fan letter. He did not see the 1971 film prior to his hiring, which Burton believed would be fundamental in having August stay closer to the book. Now that seems like the right way to go. Burton and August also worked together in creating Wilbur Wonka, Willie's domineering dentist father, played by Christopher Lee. Burton thought the parental character would help explain Willy Wonka himself, and that otherwise he would be just a weird guy. The element of an estranged father-son relationship had previously appeared in Big Fish, similarly directed by Burton and written by August. Warner Brothers and the director held differences over the characterization of Charlie Bucket and Willy Wonka. The studio wanted to entirely delete Mr. Bucket and make Willy Wonka the idealistic father figure that Charlie had longed for his entire life, but Burton believed that Wonka would not be a good father, finding the character similar to the recluse. Burton did say, "In some ways, he's more screwed up than the kids." Warner Brothers also wanted Charlie to be a whiz kid, but Burton resisted the characterization. He wanted Charlie to be an average kid who would be in the background and not get in trouble. Principal photography for Charlie and the Chocolate Factory started on June 21, 2004, at Pinewood Studios in England. Tim Burton and composer Danny Elfman found filming somewhat difficult because they were simultaneously working on Corpse Bride. The Wonka factory exterior was coincidentally constructed on the same backlot Burton had used for Gotham City in Batman from 1989. The ceremonial scene required 500 local extras. The Chocolate Room and the River set pieces filled Pinewood's 007 stage. As a consequence of British equity rules, which states that children can only work 4.5 hours a day, filming for Charlie and the Chocolate Factory languished for 6 months and ended in December 2004. The architecture of the Bucket family house was influenced by Burton's visit to Roald Dahl's writing hut. Like the book, the film has a timeless setting and is not set in a specific country. We tried not to pinpoint in any place, which is what production designer Alex McDowell explained. The cars, in fact, drive down the middle of the road. The town, whose design was shaped in the black and white urban photography of Bill Brent, Pittsburgh, and northern England, is arranged like a medieval village, with Wonka's estate on top of and the Bucket's shack below. The filmmakers also used faceless architecture for Wonka's factory exterior, and designed most of the sets on 360-degree sound stages similar to Cycloramus. Burton biographer Mark Salisbury wrote that Charlie and the Chocolate Factory melds 1950s and 70s visuals with a futuristic sensibility that seems straight out of the 1960s sense of the future. The TV room was patterned after photographs from 2001 A Space Odyssey, Danger Diabolic, and THX 11338. Danger Diabolic was also served as inspiration for the Nut Room and the Inventing Room. Tim Burton avoided using too many digital effects because he wanted the younger actors to feel as if they were working in a realistic environment. As a result, forced perspective techniques, oversized props, and scale models were used to avoid computer-generated images. Deep Roy was cast to play all the Oompa-Loompas based on his previous collaborations with Burton on the Planet of the Apes and Big Fish films. The actor was able to play various Oompa-Loompas using split-screen photography, digital and front projection effects. Tim told him that the Oompa-Loompas were strictly programmed like robots. All they do is work, work, work. So when it comes time to dance, it's like a regiment that they do the same steps. A practical method was considered for a scene in which Violet Beauregarde turns blue and swells up into a giant 10-foot blueberry. A suit with an air hose was considered at one point for the beginning of the swelling scene, before the decision was made to do in the entire transformation in CGI. The visual effects house Cinesite, which was recruited for this assignment. In some shots, there were shots of Anna Sophia Robb's head. A facial prosthetic was worn to give the impression of her cheeks had swelled up as well. Because this decision was made late in the film's production, any traces of Violet's blueberry scene were omitted from trailers on promotional material. Rather than relying on CGI, Burton wanted the 40 squirrels in the Nut Room to be real. The animals were trained every day for 10 weeks before filming commenced. They began their coaching while newborns fed by bottles to form relationships with human trainers. The squirrels were each taught how to sit upon a little bar stool, tap and then open a walnut, and deposit its meat onto a conveyor belt. Ultimately, this scene was supplemented by CGI and animatronics, Burton said, but the close-ups and main actions, they're the real thing. Wonka's Viking boat for the Chocolate River sequence floats down a realistic river filled with 192,000 gallons of Fowl's melted candy. Having seen the first film, he wanted to make a chocolate river look edible. McDowell says, in the first film, that's so distasteful. The production first considered a CGI river, but Burton was impressed with the artificial substance when he saw how it clung to the boat's oars. 9 shades of chocolate were tested before Burton settled on the proper hue. The original musical score was written by Danny Elfman. A frequent collaboration with director Tim Burton, Elfman's score is based on 3 primary themes. A general family theme for the Buckets, which is generally set in upper woodwinds, and mythical string-driven waltz for Willy Wonka's theme song, and a hyper-upbeat factory theme for full orchestra. Elfman's homemade synthesizer samples and the diminutive chanting voices of the Oompa-Loompas. Now, Elfman also wrote and performed the vocals for 4 of the songs, with pitch changes and modulations to represent different singers. The lyrics to the Oompa-Loompa songs were adapted from the original book, and are thus credited to Roald Dahl. Thank goodness. Following Burton's suggestion, each song in the score is designed to reflect a different archetype. Wonka's Welcome Song is a maddeningly cheerful theme park ditty, kind of like It's a Small World at Disneyland, in a way. Augustus Gloop is, well, a Bollywood spectacle, pure Deep Roy's suggestion. Violet Beauregard's song is 1970s funk, and Veruca Salt is 1960s bubblegum pop and psychedelic pop, and Mike TV's is a tribute to late 1970s hard rock, such as Queen and early 1980s hair bands. Now, I want to make some comparisons to the book. Some things that I've noticed, and some things that may be good or a little bit not from the book, but things that might be things that can fix up the problem from the last film. Now, Grandpa Joe, who's played by David Kelly in this film, gets some development. He says that he used to work for Willy Wonka before the factory opened, and also before it got shut down. And also there's the river tunnel scene, which was given waterfalls and rapids instead of scary-looking images, colors, and lights. Now, in the book, both parents of the 4 children went with them to the factory, but instead in this film, it was changed to one member of their family to go with them. And thank goodness they got rid of the fizzy lifting drinks and replaced the golden geese with the squirrels. Thank goodness for that. Also to note, the glass elevator is used more often in this film than the original one. Now, I know Fudge Mountain, the Puppet Hospital, and the gunball cannons and the cotton candy sheep weren't in the book, but I like those touches, though. And also, there's the part where Willy Wonka tells Mike that he mumbles. Well, that's in the book, too. And now, it's time to move on to the cast of this movie. Now let's start with Willy Wonka himself, played by Johnny Depp. Best known for his debut film, Nightmare on Elm Street from 1984, Edward Scissorhands, and the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise. Now, say what you will about the guy, but I thought he was a pretty good Wonka in this film. I also like how Tim Burton gave Wonka some development by having some flashbacks from his childhood, and even more to him. Plus, it seems like Johnny Depp is having fun with this role. Our main character, Charlie Bucket, is played by Freddie Highmore, who was with Johnny Depp in Finding Neverland, and afterwards was in 3 horrible French-made films that involved ugly troll dolls. Now, I felt like Freddie's portrayal as Charlie fits him because he looks like a good and lovable boy despite coming from a poor and broken down family. Next, we have Augustus Gloop, played by Philip Whitegrass, who's mostly been in some German films that I haven't even heard about, nor can I pronounce correctly. Now, while he doesn't have too much in this movie, but all we know is that Augustus is a really greedy kid who eats too much. Next, we have Veruca Salt, played by Julia Winter, who was recently in Dolphin Tale 2. Now, Veruca, like in the book, is a really spoiled brat who wants everything for herself and relies on her parents to make them happen. Next, we have Violet Beauregard, played by Anna Sophia Robb, from films like Because of Winn-Dixie and Bridge to Terabithia. This girl is one of the reasons why I never chew gum in the first place. Plus, she's a bit of a competitor girl who considers herself a winner at everything, and it's really just mean. Next, we have Mike TV, played by Jordan Fry, who did voice Loomis in Disney's Meet the Robinsons. In this film, Mike TV was changed into an obsessive video game player and science geek, as compared to the novel in which he fantasized about violent crime films. And lastly, we have Mr. and Mrs. Bucket, played by Helena Bonham Carter and Noah Taylor. And now to move on my final words of this movie. Overall, this adaptation of Roald Dahl's Charlie and the Chocolate Factory is a sweet movie. In my eyes, it stays close to the original source material. The acting in this film is outstanding, and the film does give a lot of messages about family and other things. If you guys haven't seen this film yet, then I highly recommend you rent it from your store or buy it if you like. And if Roald Dahl were still alive today, then he would enjoy this film too. I give this film a full 100%. Well, that's it for today, everyone. Be sure to join me next time, because next time we're going to the Amazon rainforest. Mustang power!